Chris, for having me.
What's your reaction?
My reaction is that this is weak and pathetic. This is what he's been doing since the beginning of his presidency, even before he was president. He said, WikiLeaks, if you're out there, send me the stuff. Russia, if you're out there, send me the stuff. Now he's actually president of the United States, and he's effectively inviting foreign interference in our elections. He has never held Putin responsible for what Putin did, and he stood next to Putin and said, I take his word for it. Every single Western democracy is under attack from Russia, and the President of the United States needs to be somebody who can stand up, not just for America, but for our allies as well, and he's failed that test again.
Does the statement from the President today shed light for you on what his motivations were and those around him during this 2016 campaign, a lot of which was captured in the Mueller report?
Of course. He's a cheater. And what Mueller showed is that, he did everything he could to try to obstruct justice. He doesn't care how he wins as long as he does win, and I think more important than that, he doesn't care what's happening in the average lives of Americans or what's happening to America's place in the world, which is a real tragedy.
Well, if it does inform your thinking about what his motivations were, and it sounds like if he was about this type of behavior, he was certainly abusing the office, why is it that you believe that impeachment is not the right move?
Well, I think we need to have a process to lead us to a conclusion, and importantly, to lead the American people to that conclusion. I've said for weeks that my reading of the Mueller report is that he committed impeachable offenses. But we have to have a public process so that we can air this out for America.
But isn't that an impeachment inquiry? I'm not pushing for it. I'm saying, isn't that what you're saying without saying it because you're worried about the downside?
Well, I think we may have a semantic difference, so I'll accept your description of it for the purpose of this discussion. But I think that just as they did in Watergate, we need to have a series of public hearings and then reach a conclusion. And we need to manage this process in a way that does not inadvertently lead to the reelection of Donald Trump or make it easier for him to be reelected. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, but we need to do both those things. If we impeach Trump or don't impeach Trump, and that leads to, the disaster of his being reelected, we will have failed at doing our job. If we can do it and ensure that he only has one term, then we've done our job well.
When people in your party hear what the president said, you already have basically 2 out of 3 of them who feel that you guys should have already started an impeachment inquiry. Are you concerned that they'll say, so Bennett and these other people who want to be my leader, they didn't want to do what we put them there to do, which is hold him accountable. They didn't want to do their job for whatever political analysis reason they have. Why should I vote for him now?
I think doing our job is making sure that Donald Trump is a one-term president. And as I've said over and over again, I think that he committed impeachable offenses, and they should start a process.
I'm with you. Senator, it's an interesting analysis because you could argue, and please feel free to push back, that your job is actually not to make sure he's a one-term president, unless you run as the nominee. Now it's your job because you're running for it. But as Congress, it's not your job to make sure he's a one-term president. It's your job to do the work of the people. And the work of the people, in part, as the Constitution says, is to hold the executive to account. And do you feel you guys are really doing that right now?
I think we need to do both. I think we absolutely need to do both. But I think we also need to understand that this government has been basically tyrannized by these guys called the Freedom Caucus and Mitch McConnell for the last 10 years. We keep losing to these guys. We have a climate denier in the White House. We have a guy who doesn't believe in freedom of the press, the rule of law, an independent judiciary who won't turn over stuff to the FBI. He should turn over to the FBI, who's completely lawless, unlike any other president we've ever had. And we need to win in the end in order to not just beat Trump, by the way, but to make sure that McConnell and the Freedom Caucus can't immobilize our federal government, don't have a veto on climate, a veto on health care, a veto on guns. And we, to be honest, over the last 10 years, I think, have been less strategic than they have been about how to deal with this stuff. And we keep losing to them as a result.
So